record on this computer. All
Okay.
right, good evening.
Good evening po. So I just want to say welcome and thank you po again for volunteering to take part in this focused semi-structured interview. So you have been asked po to participate as your point of view is important and we realize po na busy po kayo if you did po. So we really appreciate your
I'll
time.
also,
I
na lang,
just,
yeah. I'll open
ayun.
my video kasi nahiya ako na,
Oh,
but I
ito
just woke
po.
up. All right.
Hi po.
Hi,
Ayan.
nice to meet
So,
you.
yun po, I just want to introduce myself po. My name is Andy Tomo and my fellow researcher po is Kiara Zernosa.
Hi.
Ayun po. Meron po dapat kaming isa pa pong kasama but right now po she's not available. Pero yun.
All right.
Um, so, yun po. You agreed po sa recording. So, despite po being taped, we would like to assure you that the discussion on your identity po will be kept anonymous. But that's only po if you prefer it. If you
Mm,
want po ba sa paper, if your name's gonna be mentioned, will that be okay? Or gusto niyo pong,
yes, I prefer that you mention my name.
okay po. Okay, so that's noted po. We just want to say na everything po we're gonna talk about will be transcribed word per word, tapos yung audio or yung video po will be destroyed. So, the transcribed notes of the interview will contain no information that would allow individual subjects to be linked to specific statements. So you should try to answer and comment as accurately and truthfully as possible. So, before we start, we would like to remind you again na wala pong tama or maling answer in this discussion. We are interested in knowing what you understand. So please feel free to be frank and to share your point of view. Ayun. So
Sure.
nakita niyo naman po yung questions. So
Yes, I
ready
have a
na rin po.
copy in my here.
Okay po, thank you. So for the first set of questions, si Kara na lang po muna yung magtatanong.
All right, Kiara.
Good evening. To introduce myself, my name is Kara, and I will be asking the first set of questions. So, yung answers nyo po will be the answers from the set of questions that I will be asking will answer our main question, which is how well aware are people of children with dyslexia in schools? So for my first question, how can you tell that a student or child has dyslexia?
Yeah, but before I answer that question, I'd like to was have a question first about your motivation for the topic. Like, how did you come about imagining, oh, I want this lecture for a topic between the three of you? Like, why? It's really rare.
Ano po? Kaya ikaw gusto mo
Okay.
mag-comment? Ako na, okay.
Um, for for me, since yung dyslexia po, we research na hindi po siya usually napapag-usapan and napapansin.
Yeah.
Ayun.
So how did you first like come upon the word dyslexia or the topic itself? Like, saan nyo narinig siya?
Ako na lang po yung sasagot. Kasi po, meron po kami, binigyan po kami ng parang pipili po kami sa 17 SDGs po.
Ah,
I believe si Kiara po yun, she came up with the parang learning disorders po na topic.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yun po. So, we looked through yung learning disorders and then we saw nga po na in the Philippines, hindi po talaga siya gano'n ka nabibigyan ng support or hindi po
True.
sila masyado natutulungan or nabibigyan po ng pansin, like even
Yes.
just attention po. So, we looked through the learning disorders and then we saw na isa po sa pinaka most common na learning disorder here po sa Philippines is dyslexia. And
Yes.
so, yun po, sobrang nagulat din po kami na even sarili po naming classmates or hindi po nila talaga masyado alam kung ano po yung dyslexia. Ako
True.
naman po, personally, nalaman ko po siya through, Facebook, TikToks, gano'n po. Kasi,
Yeah.
yun po, meron pong mga dyslexics on TikTok na nagpo-provide po ng knowledge. Pero overall, generally po, hindi po
Sa
talaga siya
Philippines,
kilala.
wala. Yeah, but
Opo.
you would be surprised to know that a lot of the mga actors and actresses, even singers, they are in the performing business because of dyslexia. So I've recently encountered like a news clip of Regine Velasquez claiming that she has dyslexia. And that's the reason why ayaw niyang pumasok ng school at gusto niyang mag-showbiz na lang kasi she found it hard to do the usual academic thing. Hindi niya daw talaga forte ang school. Um, I have some students before, way back in 2006. So I'm that old that really went to showbiz and had like a certain level of uh success in showbiz. So that would be interesting for you. So alamin niyo kung sino yung nag-claim na may dyslexia siya. May picture kami na estudyante ko siya dati.
Good po.
Actually,
Opo.
marami sila kasi sa school where I used to teach in Quezon City, a lot of them really went to showbiz na na route. So some of them, iba-iba yung levels of success nila, but some really went mainstream. So, okay, so how can you tell? So, Kiara, how can you tell that a student or child has a dyslexia? So, ang pinaka-simple na lang na na sagot doon really is dyslexia is an unexpected learning difficulties, unexpected intellectual disproportion with the reading skill itself. So, unexpected siya at disproportional siya kasi kapag kausap mo yung isang tao na may dyslexia, hindi mo siya kaagad napapansin na dyslexic. Nangyayari na lang yun kapag pinabasa mo na siya no, ng libro or anything na babasahin. And then, napapansin mo na nahihirapan siya magbasa. And hindi siya yun yung ini-expect mo. Kasi nga, super smart, there's really nothing wrong. It's not an issue with smartness or IQ. It's an issue of reading difficulties. Very specific siya sa reading itself or sa math itself or even sa writing itself. So most of the time you will see is specific to reading. Uh, but sometimes it could also be just math or it could be just writing. So yun yung mga ah kaunang mga ways, yung pinaka-significant na ways to see that or know that a child or student has dyslexia. And sometimes hindi mo siya kaagad nalalaman because it's here in the Philippines or even in other countries. It's really uh ano siya no, emotionally laden siya na na disability. They call it a hidden disability because wala siyang physical manifestation. Hindi mo siya nakikita sa pagmumukha or sa pag-uugali. So a lot of times the kids who do not understand or haven't been diagnosed with dyslexia, they feel very confused. Because they feel that uh they know they're different from other kids, but they don't know why. So they don't understand why they can't read, for example. And for many of students or kids who are still growing up, that could be a source of embarrassment and shame. No, hindi mo ma-pinpoint why you are different. And when you grow up feeling that way, it could lead to a lot of mga social-emotional issues, psychological issues even, and sometimes even psychological distress. So, yon, Kiara.
Okay, for the second question naman po, would you say that there is enough awareness about dyslexia here in the Philippines?
No, I would really disagree. And um, the fact that I've been doing this forever, like half of my life, like um I realized so I was one of the few teachers who got trained in a specific strategy now because you do need a specific strategy, a specific approach to teach kids. So we're one of the first batches from the University of the Philippines College of Education who were parang immersed in this area in this field. I think there were about I would say 15 to 20 of us way back in the late 1990s. Last century. No, last century pa ito. Uh, and then I hope during that time is that i-increase yung awareness ng about dyslexics because our students really were, yeah, I told you before that they were going to show business. They were very vocal about it, mga ganyan, that it would improve. Sadly, it didn't. Yung nawala yung parang momentum of it all. And I think one of the reasons really also is that a lot of the teachers who are in special education, they leave the country. So they move to the States and rarely do they come back. So I'm one of those teachers that chose to come back in the Philippines, specifically for, I don't know, to really not naman train, pero raise awareness, work with local kids. So I'm surprised na nung bumalik ako, so I was gone for like several years. Uh, Nadismaya ako kasi imbis na mag-improve yung awareness, mag-improve yung educational system, hindi siya nangyari. Like totally I think I would say now I'm working from scratch. Like really working on the grassroots level of uh telling people what it is about, explaining what it is about na considering 20 years ago pa ako nag-graduate. Uh, so I'm always happy to know of young kids like you who stumble upon dyslexia, no, and really work on developing resources, for example, or uh making papers out of the topic kasi it really helps. It's really a fun topic anyway. So it's a fun topic. So in the past year or two, even during the pandemic, I've had young kids in college like along the lines of your I know your subject or your course. Like I've worked with several college students who develop dyslexia app, uh, a website that has games or digital resources for kids who can't read. May mga ganyan siya. So natutuwa ako because also one of my interests really is like merging technology with strategies in teaching dyslexia. So we're really the approach really that I do is really digital in nature, technology rich siya in terms of how we help kids. But that's it. So long ang aking explanation. But no, Yara, no.
Okay po. Then for the third one po, why do you think that learning disabilities were not properly addressed in
Ay,
the
nako,
Philippines?
politika yan. Politika, I think it's politika. Remember, during the time, I think uh, but you know what? My mentors in college, so I graduated from UP, no, and during that time, uh, or even now, UP is really, I know, UP is really spearheading a lot of these uh mga laws and mga plans for education for the Filipino students. So I would say na uh so, ang mga mentors ko really during that time are also from UP. Ito yung mga UP professors. Sila yung nagsimula, for example, uh, ng school where I used to work, which is called the Word Lab School. So, sila yung owners. They're all mga uh, professors from UP. So, they're also the ones manning then Department of Education, no? So they're the ones trying to imagine what it is like for dyslexics in terms of yung role nila sa lipunan natin. And if you remember, right, there was this time during one administration where they really uh parang inserted the mother tongue. No, so the mother tongue idea was raised or was born out of a concern then that we are really a multilingual country. Ah, and I think tapos yung boss ko dati sa Word Lab is the author of it. So naging undersecretary siya ng Department of Education during that time. So siya yung nag-spearhead talaga. So she was my mentor in UP before and she became my boss also. Uh, I think one of the things that really affected that is that una, funding. Uh, wala tayo masyadong funding for special ed. Hindi dedicated yung funding for kids with special needs. So para siya, yeah, may dedicated funds for students in general, but I think now they have a dedicated budget for special ed, but really not maybe for dyslexia. So among the parang sequence of priorities sa Department of Education, hindi siya priority. And I think that's a big disservice kasi nga meron tayong uh there are a lot of research about yung population of special ed, and um parati naman sinasabi na dyslexia yung pinakamarami. Kaya nga minsan nakakalito yung disability na to kasi normal ka tignan, tapos hindi ka nakakabasa lang. Akalain ng teacher na ah, ano ka lang, tamad, bobo, kailangan mo lang ng mag-work. So ilalagay ka nila sa regular classroom. But ultimately, hindi siya nag-work kasi hindi naman talaga mag-work yung regular classroom for you. So na-hide yung need for resources and tulong kasi nga normal tignan. So yun din yung isa sa mga problema kung bakit hindi na a-address kasi normal tignan ang mga dyslexics. Karamihan sa kanila magaganda at gwapo pa. So bakit mo nga naman iisipin, 'di ba, na may disability sila because they look fabulous. So that's it. Wala masyadong awareness, wala masyado ding training ang teachers on how to detect dyslexia in childhood, as in wala.
Then, for my last question po, since na-answer niyo na din po yung
Oh,
question
yes.
na
Question number
i-ask ko.
3. Yeah, wala
Yes,
talaga. So I will also further explain to you yung support na yan ha. Uh,
okay po.
So in terms of special ed in the Philippines, as far as I know, they do have dedicated schools, no, that will offer you services in public schools. So ito yung mga special ed centers. Not all of the public schools will have a special ed center. So doon sa meron na special ed center, so even my experience before, ang pinaka na-identify at natutulungan nila yung may mga physical disabilities katulad ng ah hearing impaired, visually impaired, intellectual delay, autism. So, yun, talagang may pondo minsan, no, at may resources for that. Pero ang nangyayari, way back in 2000s, sa isang school, isang classroom lang sila lahat. So, jump pack sila doon. Tapos, ang teacher, so I'm a special ed teacher in the States. It doesn't happen that way in there. So may dedicated classroom, kunyari, hearing impaired ka, doon ka, so dependent na yun sa need mo. But if you're severely hearing impaired, you go to a school for that. If you are dyslexic, you have like a specific uh, room or resources or teachers for that. Pag autism, iba din. Dito sa atin, hindi ganun kasi nga walang funding. So my students right now, the students that we work with, one of them is in a school na mayroong special ed services, which is uh, also good. Hindi siya ganun ka-perfect. Pero ang nangyayari is like now they have flexible uh, parang placement. So, nandun siya sa regular school, pero kailangan niya ng work or tulong, for example, in test, pwede siyang pumunta doon sa special ed center and then recognize na ng teacher niya na, kaya siya nandito kasi kailangan niya ng tulong at maski hindi siya naman I'm not sure kung talagang wala siya sa special ed or na-identify lang siya na kailangan niya ng extra support. So they allowed him in. So may mga ganun na silang accommodations now. I'm not sure with private schools. I think none. Yun yung pinaka problema natin sa Philippines kasi walang support at all sa private school. So they're very I don't know, so the government schools they can do that kasi may pondo sila. May pondo sila to hire these teachers na may item under a special education item. Sa private schools wala silang ganon. Although nagbabayad ng mahal yung mga estudyante, uh, halos wala pa ring accommodations for kids na may uh, special needs. So ang nangyayari is that they go to a private practitioner like me after school they go there. Pero yung mga within the school itself in the private schools, I don't know. They're very resistant to it kasi nga I think they have an parang Ah, naisip siguro nila that it will reflect on them. Nakakahiya siguro na magkaroon ng estudyante na gano'n. Hindi nila alam, hindi nila na screen out, 'di ba? Kasi may mga screening na nangyayari sa private schools. Ah, so I don't know. I'm not really sure, but that's my experience in private schools here. And number four, walang proper educational training ang teachers. So even myself, when I graduated from college, na special ed na yung focus ko ha. We did have one subject that explained to us about dyslexia, among other disabilities. Pero once I got to work in the school, that's the school, the Word Lab school needed to train me again. And that's what I also do now. I have to retrain teachers again kasi iba talaga yung training niya that you have to go through. Even in America, they don't train you in college for that. Isa din yun sa mga problema nila. Because mahirap siya, you have to like reformat your brain. I-reformat mo kung ano talaga yung pagkaintindi mo ng edukasyon, paano mo ituturo yung mga bagay-bagay. Uh, and then even the sequence of the sounds that you have to show them, it's really very specific and time consuming and it hindi lahat ng teachers kaya yon i-appreciate. So, but kung tinuro yon, malamang sa malamang, mas may improved awareness na ang mga tao for it. All right, next question.
For the next one po, Andrea Gill will ask the next set of
All
questions.
right.
Hello
Thank
po
you.
again. Ayun. So, for the next set of questions po, yung general question po namin here is, what does it mean to have proper education for students with dyslexia? So, yung first question po is, what are the problems that children with dyslexia might encounter while learning, and how can they possibly overcome them? Did you consider learning styles?
All right. So, uh, medyo I'll give you na lang a caveat, no, or several stories na experience ko recently. So, uh, typically the problems that children with dyslexia encounter while learning is really yung pinaka common is that hindi nila mabasa yung textbooks nila. Yun yung pinaka common. Uh, and then the teachers they are confused kasi bakit hindi nila mabasa considering na naka-kindergarten na sila, nakailang ano na sila, no, school na sila. So, yun yung typical. So, I have a case recently, an 18-year-old kid na uh, diagnosed siya with dyslexia 10 years ago. So, nung I think 8 siya or maybe 8 or 10, mga ganyan, diagnosed. Pero the mom, kasi smart nga yung kid, so the mom and the dad chose not to do intervention. Tapos kinaya naman nung estudyante, no, kinaya niya hanggang senior high. Can you imagine that? Wala kang intervention, na-diagnose ka na at 8 or 10, kinaya niya, pero nung 18, nag-crash na siya. So nag-crash na siya, uh, mayroon na siyang psychological distress. So I actually got to know him in the mental health clinic. So I didn't tell you that I just graduated from a master's in clinical psychology. So I'm also doing my review now for clinical psychology for June. And uh I did my internship in a mental health clinic, and then I'm a consultant there right now. So iba na yung focus nung trabaho ko in terms of dyslexia, no? So I'm finding all of these mga young adult dyslexics na either diagnosed or undiagnosed na ang presentation ng disability nila ay mental health crisis. So, dumating na yung 18-year-old, meron siyang mental health crisis kasi nga lumabas na sila. So, typical ngayon na paglabas ng pandemic, yung ibang mga bata or young adult hindi sure, no, sa kung paano gumalaw sa society. So, they get anxious, they get uh, parang nervous a lot when it comes to dealing with other people. So may ganun na siya. Tapos meron pa siyang bago lahat ng classmates niya. So wala siyang friends, hindi siya nagkakaroon ng friends. Tapos meron pa siyang self-esteem issues kasi ah alam niya na he needs to cope up with academics and then have to deal with social expectations pa. So nag-crash na siya. Tapos nung tinest namin yung atong student is that very smart. So ilang multitudes of tests siya showing that he's smart. Yung kanyang nonverbal IQ is really high up there. Pero yung reading niya ang baba, nasa grade 2 level. Can you imagine that? Super smart ka. Alam mo how yung ability mo to problem solve for daily tasks is really high. And then so ang isa kong naisip ko is that you know for 10 years nag-problem solve siya on his own and hindi niya kinayanan na i-problem solve karamihan. So nagaano siya nag-weigh in siya, ano problema ang iso-solve ko ngayon? Ito muna. And then so to me, it's unfair because bakit hindi ka na lang nag-intervene para nawala na yung mga ganun mo, di ba? So, for 10 years, mag-isa siya nagde-decide kung paano niya i-problem solve yung mga problema niya sa utak niya kasi alam niya na may disability siya. Yun yung saklap, no? So, Di hindi na ako magtataka bakit siya nag-crash at 18, 'di ba? So, hindi rare 'yon. May iba na mayroong mga suicidal ideation talaga kasi lalo yung mga severely dyslexics na alam nila sa utak nila na kaya nilang gawin pero yung brain nila, it doesn't help them. So, yan, ang dami mga suicidal ideation na nangyayari na pwede namang maagapan. Ah, so yun yung mga problema nila. So, during their early years, a problema nila is purely reading ability or spelling ability. As you grow older, it becomes a psychological uh, problem. And as you become an adult, kapag hindi mo siya na compensate or na regulate, it can really lead to poor uh, working attitudes, mga working opportunities mo nalilimit. Kasi, so kung ito yung mga research in America, no, when they look into the prison system, kung sino yung mga nakakulong sa mga mga preso nila, a lot of them, more than 50%, I think even as high as 80%, are diagnosable for a learning disability. A lot of them dyslexics. So, ibig sabihin nun, maski dito siguro sa Pilipinas, kung gawin natin yung study na yun, sino ba yung mga nag-lead ng life ng crime? Ito yung mga nawala ng oportunidad because of learning disabilities or learning missed opportunities, no, na uh, yun yung resulta dahil hindi sila natulungan ng bata sila in terms of education. It can be sad and it really hits every layer of society, mapapobre ka, middle income, mayaman. So during the time in Quezon City, the school where I work with, super rich. Altang-alta ang mga students namin. So, uh, they so ang dami pa rin nila. So it hits everybody. It's not hindi namimili ng social economic status itong disability na to.
Okay po. So, thank you for that po. And then for the next question po, what learning materials or strategies do you recommend for teaching students with dyslexia?
Yeah, so yun, pinaka-importante, not naman one of the more important things about teaching kids with dyslexia is really the materials and resources that you use. So typically hindi nag-work yung alam natin ng mga ano no, ng mga materials na ginagamit sa school. Hindi yung utak nung dyslexic, hindi siya nagbe-benefit from those materials or resources. We have to like really change it. So one of the main things that we use is really what we call the multisensory teaching. Multisensory in a way na ano siya consistent mo siyang ginagamit. So yung natututo yung isang tao using uh, many different modes. So for example, yung iba, 'di ba, gusto ng uh, lectures lang, mas nagbe-benefit sila sa lectures. Yung iba naman nagbe-benefit from reading it themselves. So marami silang nakikitang visuals. Yon. Mas okay sa kanila yun. Yung iba naman mas natututo kapag ginagawa na nila, yung mga on the job. For kids with dyslexia, really the trick there is you have to do it multisensorial. So because there's something we call in the field called yung mga sea of strengths approach. So you know that there is like a difficulty in reading amidst a sea of strengths. Ito yung mga strengths nila, kaya nilang mataas na vocabulary, kailangan mataas na comprehension. So you have to use all of those strengths para i-pull yung difficulty. So you can do that using a multisensorial approach. Kasi kung ano yung difficult niya, for example, mahina yung phonological systems niya, hindi niya kaagad na nagigets yung mga naririnig niya. So by putting a visual part in the lesson and making part in the lesson, then pinupul mo na nagbibigay ka ng mga suporta doon sa phonological part. So kailangan mo siyang gawin kada lesson. So specific to a reading lesson, for example, we do that multisensory teaching. So, ang materials namin is really tactile. So, may mga letter tiles na tinatawag na pwede niyang i-feel, pwede niyang tignan, pwede niyang i-manipulate, no? Uh, because that tactile or touching is, and even kinesthetic, moving it around is also very important to kids na ganyan. So ngayon may nakikita ako like digitally is really parang ano na ibang level na ang digital resources ngayon, because then now you have movable tiles on the tip of your finger, and then if you click on it meron na siyang audio kaagad. So stuff like that that uh really helps a dyslexic kid to learn better. So, para siyang immersive na learning. Kung if you've used like a art, what do you call that? Yung parang may goggles, AR,
VR po.
VR.
yeah.
VR
Yung
po.
mga ganyan
Yeah.
na very immersive yung yung makikita mo. That's what yan na yung level sa Amerika na pagtuturo ng concepts and even teaching, no? So yung umalis ako ng Amerika noong 2019, we're doing so uh ang ang gawain na namin as a reading teacher is really just monitor and facilitating all the things that the kids need. They're on a tablet or in a laptop. So yung ginagawa ko, meron ng ano, avatar. So they talk to the avatar. The avatar uh parang interacts with them. So yung avatar, yung AI program na mismo yung nagpipili nung words for and text for the student depende doon sa pagsagot niya. So the AI keeps track of all of these results. Yung kiniklik niya sa mouse, uh, and they even record it. So, ang recording ng voice mo is like in a big storage facility. And then the AI sorts out your ability to read the words. They keep track of the ano din, the eyeball. Nagka-track siya kung saan mo binabasa. So, nung umalis na ako noong 2019, ang rinroll yun na nila na umalis na ako na hindi ko na nakita is really that VR thing, the virtual reality. Can you imagine that? Magtuturo ka ng science ng araling panlipunan, naka-VR kayo, may nakahook sa kisame ng school mo. So, ganun na ng level. So, I was like fortunate enough that I worked for a school na mahilig mag invest sa technology for their students, and also because we lived in a Google area, so may malaking facility si Google doon sa city ko where they store like all of our data. And what Google does is they train a lot of the teachers within the area doon sa kanilang mga products. So, si Google na yung nagpapa-VR sa amin dati. So, yun yung mga yun na yung tinitignan natin ngayon for kids with dyslexia. Sadly, dito sa Pilipinas, sa 19 kopong-kopong pa din tayo. So, yun yung ano, yung sad kasi so whenever a teacher like finds me on social media and then they ask to be trained, or even when I train sometimes uh yung alam pa lang nila yung wooden tiles or yung plastic tiles. Basta sa loob-loob ko, Diyos ko, kaya ko naman ituro yan kasi ginawa ko din yan dati. Pero yung Amerika, nung sa ibang level na, nung sa AI na sila, kailangan nating humabol, yung mga ganyan. So that's also the way that I do things now. So I have to translate everything in Google or on an iPad. Kasi ang mahal ng program. So my students before, the government pays for about $3,000 or $4,000 a year per student, ha. So, nung bumalik ako dito para may access doon sa program na yun, nung bumalik ako ng Pilipinas, hindi naman kaya yan. Hindi ko naman kaya yung bilhin. 'Di ba? Hindi din kaya $4,000 a year sa mga Pilipino. Hindi siya realistic. So, kailangan ko mag-problem solve at gawin yung gusto kong gawin ah na ano, ah version. Yung mga ganyan. Filipino version tayo, kailangan nating gumamit ng ibang paraan para ma-achieve yun. So, that's why I really like working with students sa multimedia, sa technology, kasi kayo yung may mag-i-envision kung ano yung ganon in the future. At may pera sa ganon. Ay sinasabi ko sa inyo. Dahil Amerika nga, nagkamal-kamal sila. Billion ang kanilang uh, budget for programs like that. Can you imagine billions of dollars, 'di ba? To develop an AI reading program na ang ganda nung visuals, ang ganda nung interface. So, kaya ni malamang sa malamang yung gumawa nun mga Indiano, mga Chinese, mga Pilipino, 'di ba? Pero nandun siya sa Amerika. So, really, educational technology is the way to go. Can be a way to go now. All right. So, dami ka na nakwento. Ah,
Alam po. Pero ayun, siguro, parang connected din po sa sinabi niyo. My next question po is, does the Philippines still lack the necessary conditions and equipment to teach students with dyslexia? How so?
no. Kasi, kung isipin mo, special ed teachers, no, from the Philippines, pumupunta ng Amerika and they do much better there. It doesn't have anything to do with the tao, the teacher. It's really the opportunities for training. So yun yung pinaka problema natin. And awareness, knowledge level, yun yung pinaka problema natin. The things that I do sometimes, they're all available online. All I do is research. So kung may problema ako na i hindi kaya ng mga materials ko, I go to Google and I research it. It's there. A lot of these like materials and curriculum, minsan nakakalkal ko siya sa Google. So, hindi yung materials ang problema. Nandun na kasi siya sa internet. Kailangan mo lang siyang hanapin. Pero kung hindi mo siya alam kung ano yung hinahanap mo at paano mo siya hanapin sa Google, hindi mo siya makikita. So, uh, it's not a matter of like is there something wrong. Well, there's something wrong. Yun na nga, yung ano natin, budgeting, allocation, and really the willingness to learn more about it. Then minsan uh, yung mga concerns natin, hindi siya prioritized din. Kaya siya nagiging problema. So, it's being swept aside. Uh, hindi siya na-highlight. Pero, ano siya. But with any issues in special ed, no? So, even with autism, ADHD, mga emotional problems, it has a lot of impact sa population natin. Kung 10% ng population mo, uh, hindi siya productive, no? It takes away from the resources. Yun yung nagiging problema natin kapag may mga taong hindi natin nasusuportahan kasi baggage siya ng ekonomiya natin, 'di ba? Hindi siya nakakadagdag sa kaban ng Pilipinas. Ah, so what we want really is to alleviate that. Uh, and it's easy to alleviate that with dyslexics kasi nga these are super smart people that if you help them a bit no in the beginning, uh yung mga ibang 'di ba, mga enterprises in America, yung mga CEOs na may dyslexia, they tend to really do well in business, in technology kasi nga out of the box thinking. So nabigyan sila ng opportunities as kids or even yung sistema ng pamumuhay nila mas maganda kaysa sa Pilipinas, that they're able to contribute to society. So uh it can be a tool for a lot of good things. Pero sadly, dito sa Pilipinas, hindi, nagiging baggage siya, no? And we want to change that.
Okay po. So next question po is it possible to create an equitable education through inclusive education?
Of course. Yeah. So one of the ways that you have to make sure that it's an inclusive education is you have to provide opportunities no for all of these students in the classroom in public and in private schools. So ibig sabihin nun nagte-train ka ng teachers, nag uh, nag bibigay ka ng uh, tamang curriculum for these kids. And you know what? Ito yung sikreto ng special ed. I have to explain. Special ed kasi nga special siya na kind of education. What the teachers or what the schools do not. So nagiging special siya because the teachers, we, the special ed people, we tend to look at curriculum, materials, and teaching practices na hindi nag-work for our students, di ba? Tapos tina-transform namin yon para paggamit ng estudyante namin. These are what you call best practices. Ito yung pinaka best na practice para matutunan ng isang batang may disability yung isang bagay. Hindi na nare-realize ng regular teacher or ng regular na tao na because these are the easiest na ways na para explain. These are also going to work for traditional students, for regular students. 'Di ba? Kasi nakikita namin saan pwedeng mahihirapan yung isang estudyante kapag ginamit yung textbooks na to, tapos ita-transform namin. So kung nag-work na siya sa students namin, how much more dun sa regular student na hindi na kailangan mag-undergo ng a lot of difficulties in in learning the material kasi tinransform na ng special ed yung material na. So yun yung isa sa mga hindi na-realize ng mga tao na special ed is actually better ed. Kasi pinasimple na yung pag-extract ng information. So it really will work for everybody. So yun yung mga example ng mga inclusive education na hindi natin na-realize na pwedeng-pwede for everybody. So if you can do that, if you use all of those practices and techniques, hindi mo na kailangan mag-exclude ng dyslexic or ng ADHD o ng high functioning autism sa classroom mo kasi kayang-kaya na silang turuan, 'di ba? Ah, pero yon, ang dami nating mga stigma against kids with disability, uh, that pati sila nalilimit doon dahil doon sa stigma natin, no, na tayo mismo, inaano na, ni-itchapwera natin sila sa space natin. So we're creating safe spaces for ourselves na nagiging hadlang for inclusivity. So, hindi ganon. Walang ganon dapat, 'di ba? So, hindi pwede yung safe space ko to. Ako lang, yung mga ganyan. Dapat may mga shared tayo ng mga safe spaces so that everyone will benefit from it. Doon din ano yung inclusion na parang pumapasok.
Well, thank you so much po. So yung last question for this set po is, do you believe that children with dyslexia are more likely to be taught easily compared to adults? Why do you think so?
Compared so easily compared to adults. You mean
Like
adults na
mas,
walang disability?
compared, kunyari po, is it easier to teach yung children with dyslexia, or like, is it easier for them to manage kapag tinuruan po sila at a younger age than if they're older na
Older.
po, like young
Oh
adults?
no, yes. So syempre, mas madaling turuan at mas madaling mag-impact, no, yung gawa yung intervention kapag bata because the brain of the bata is really much more moldable. Hindi pa set, kaya 'di ba very fast yung pag-absorb ng information ng mga bata. Madali silang matuto because their brain is still sorting itself out. Mabilis yung progress niya, mabiling matuto. 'Di ba even kids na multilingual na hindi mo kailangan turuan, naririnig lang niya na sinasabi yung mga words na i-imbibe na. And that's really the natural predisposition of kids, no? So it's easier to really teach them at that age. Ang nangyayari naman pag adults is that nasiset na natin yung ating brain cells kapag adults. So sinasabi nga 'di ba that lalo na yung mga areas na kailangan ng dyslexic, it's usually the prefrontal area that becomes uh, firm na kapag young adult na. So mahirap na yon baguhin. Dahil nakagawa na ng mga neural connections yung young adult and adults, no? Ah, Parang sinasuggest na naset na yung ways nila for learning at that age. So it's really difficult to change. So that's why mas on the other hand, kapag adults naman, mas may capacity na sila to understand kung ano yung mga gusto mong ipagawa sa kanila. So in that sense, pwede pa din. Pero yun na nga, yung mga emotional yung mga missed opportunities, yun yung mga ayaw nating mangyari sa kanila. Kasi ah, habang minimiss mo yung opportunities na tumatanda ka, ang daming impact nun sa'yo. Delayed ka sa reading, delayed ka sa spelling, delayed ka sa maraming bagay. Ah, na malamang na ano ka na discarril na yung academic career mo, 'di ba? Nag-drop out ka na, nag-ano ka na, nag-fail ka na multiple times. Hindi ka na pumunta sa kursong gustong-gusto mo kasi hindi ka nakapasa sa interview at sa test. Yung mga ganon. So you want to avoid that. All right.
I Fine, thank you so much po. So for the next set of questions, I think ito po yung medyo forte nyo. This will be, yung general question po namin is, how does dyslexia affect students' social skills? So for the first question po, what are the common social challenges kids with dyslexia may face in schools in the Philippines?
Yeah. So, yon yung isa sa mga ah madalas na mga reklamo ng students dahil sa stigma is really being ostracized, no? Yung being thought of as others ka, hindi ka katulad namin. So, yon. So, yung mga nag-iisa sila, so it makes them prone to depression kasi wala silang mga friends, 'di ba? Ah, o kaya poor self-esteem kasi madalas sinatawag silang bobo, tamad, tanga, yung mga ganyan. Ganon kagarapal ang words na maririnig mo, even from your teacher sometimes. Kasi even from your mom or your dad. Can you imagine that? Uh, I have this kwento, kontian ko na lang. So, meron akong estudyante dati na yun, sa araw-araw na ginawa ng Diyos, binubugbog talaga siya nung nanay niya. Kasi bata ito ha, 7, 8 years old. Kasi nga naman, tutor siya ng mom niya. Gabi-gabi, di ba mabagal na siya, di pa niya nakukuha, tapos iba pa yung sistema ng nanay niya na hindi niya naiintindihan. So, binubugbog siya. So yung one night na frustrate na yung mom niya kasi nga ah nagturo siya ng isang ah linggo for the sa test week. So kabisado na nung student yung pinagtuturo ni mommy ng isang linggo. On the day ng test, nawala bigla. As in nawala yung pinagtuturo niya. And that is like a characteristic of a dyslexic kid, no? Inconsistent performance. So one day on, most days on, tas biglang off. Pag off na yun, wala na talaga. So nung day ng test, off siya. Di syempre, bumagsak siya. Ginawa ng nanay, hindi siya pinapasok sa bahay. Kinulong out siya sa bahay sa gate. Hindi na siya, di, syempre yung bata na trauma. Siya, katok siya ng katok sa pintuan kasi gabi na, hindi siya pinapasok sa bahay. So natulog yung bata sa garahe. Tapos during that night, yung bata, syempre galit siya sa nanay niya. Ah, wini-wish niya na mamatay na sana yung nanay ko. Tapos yung nangyari, nagka-cancer yung mom and shortly after namatay, di syempre akala nung bata siya yung dahilan kung bakit namatay yung nanay niya. 'Di ba? Ang sad. Kasi meron siyang gano'n na karanasan. Akala niya siya yung dahilan na namatay yung nanay niya. So, ah, mga emotional baggages na gano'n na akala mo ikaw, hindi naman talaga. Pero kasi nga dahil sa sitwasyon mo, na weird, hindi naman typical yon, 'di ba? Yun yung naging akala mo. So maraming gano'n sa buhay ng mga dyslexics like ah, mga poor self-esteem, kaya sila may mga suicidal issues ang mga 'yan, 'di ba? Kasi na may misinterpret nila yung mga sitwasyon and events in their lives. Bullying is also one kasi yun na nga kapag na pinpoint na ng teacher na palagi na row 4 ka, tanga, bobo ka, dun ka, 'di ba? So natutunan ng mga ibang bata na i-bully. But ah I think mas madalas yung yung mga depression type at saka yung mga alone type, ako lang sa mundo, yung mga ganyan na type ang nakikita at naranasan ko. So I have to also I have to put it out there that I'm also dyslexic. So that's why also I'm into this field kasi naranasan ko lahat ng mga naranasan nila sa buhay. So I understand them. So yon, kaya cathartic siya sa akin, no, whenever I encounter kids na gano'n at nashi-share nila yung mga experience nila. Siyempre ako na, I know the feeling, it's okay, mga ganyan. Pwede na ako magsabi ng gano'n kasi naranasan ko rin siya. So multiple times din ako drop out sa school. once in elementary, once in high school, twice in college. So, hirap na hirap talaga ako sa sa school. Although alam ko naman na smart ako, hindi siya transferable sa school. Hindi ko siya maintindihan. Bakit hindi ako nag-excel in school katulad ng mga classmates ko? Hanggang na-realize ko, dyslexic ako. Yung mga ganyan. Kailangan ko ng doble pang effort. So, nung nalaman ko yung kailangan ko ng dobleng effort, my gosh, for this book na kailangan basahin ng mga classmate ko, doble ko siyang babasahin. My gosh, na-burnout ako. Yung mga nakaka-burnout siya. So, itong masters ko, kailangan psychologically pinaghandaan ko siya. Kasi kung hindi ko siya paghandaan, yung mga attempts ko dati in masters, nakailan din ako, hindi ko siya natapos. So, eto kailangan, ganito ako mag-aral. Ganitong oras, ito yung aaralin ko. Ganito ko siya pag-aaralin. May mga ganyan na level. Mahirap, 'di ba?
So, siguro na-answer niyo na rin po, but if you want to explain further lang po, yung next question po is, would you say that there is bullying, such as name callings, discouragement, and teasing specifically happening to children with dyslexia in schools in the Philippines? If yes, how could this possibly affect the children?
Yeah, so yes, of course. So yung effect nun really is uh yun distorted yung mga nila, yung mga belief systems nila about themselves, no? So we always talk about how distortion of self happens a lot in social media with all of these filters, with all of these comparisons, no? Uh, pero hindi natin naisip na sometimes distortion can come in from ourselves, yung distorted yung understanding natin of ourselves. Kasi nga, meron ding theory, 'di ba, sa psychology na yung mga tao daw kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng mental distress is because hindi natin nami-meet yung ideal self natin sa toong self natin. Hindi natin na ma-match. So doon sa dyslexics, hirap na hirap kasi alam mo yung true self mo, may gusto ka na ideal self, pero yung mga abilities mo, hindi siya sapat para lapatan o i-match yung ideal self mo. E di forever ka nang may mental psychological distress nun, di ba? Kasi hindi mo ever siya mami-meet yung ideal self mo. May mga ganyan na ganap sa field of psychology. So, ah hirap talaga siya not until you become mature or even realize or accept your uniqueness or your disability. So, for a lot of these kids, yon maturity eventually sets in and it makes it really easier to take. Pero can you imagine nag-undergo ka ng uh, very uh, mabagyong adolescence. As in, bagyong-bagyo ang adolescence. It's a wild thing. Like, di ba typical na yung adolescence na rebelde sa pamilya at magulang. Idoblehin mo pa yon. So, yung kalbaryo nung magulang ninyo at mga like I knew my mom went through probably hell and she was clueless, no, kung bakit ako ganon nung mga panahon na yun, wala namang ka-idea yung mga nanay sa mga dyslexia. Uh, but I was so confused. I knew I was different, pero hindi ko siya ma-pinpoint. Akala ko ito, pero hindi pa rin eh. Ito yon yung mga ganyan. So, it's similar to kids now. You know you're different. So, kung wala kang diagnosis talaga, you know you're different. You just don't know which part of you is different na hindi acceptable or hindi siya acceptable to you, hindi acceptable sa mom mo, hindi acceptable dun sa mga friends mo. Kasi ikaw naman, clueless ka. Yung mga ganyan. Ang daming problema pag ganon. Diba? Katakot siya. Lalo na ngayon. Dahil sa social media. My gosh. Yung mga solusyon na binibigay ng social media, hindi angkop. Nakakatakot siya. Kaya ang dalas yung mga ngayon, recently, napapansin ko itong mga, my life is not worth it anymore. Mga Diyos ko Lord, ano ba 'to, naririnig lang ba nila 'to sa ano, sa TikTok kaya ginagaya nila? Bakit nila nasabi yon? Yung mga ganyan. Ang drama, may mga ganyan. So, natatakot ako for that,
Opo.
'di ba? Parang
Opo.
nagaya mo lang
Yes.
sa TikTok.
Ayun po. So yung next question po, siguro again, medyo connected po. What do you know about the internal frustrations that children with dyslexia may face and how can this affect their social skills? So based din po sa sinabi niyo kanina, like the depression, ganun po. How can this possibly affect po their social skills with their teachers or their
Yeah,
peers?
yeah. So, well, I can speak from experience, no, that, I grew up really shy. So, dahil yun sa negative na pag-develop ko ng idea ko ng sarili ko. So, my gosh, nung grade, kasi madalas mo siyang marinig when you're younger, like, for example, in my case, when I was like in grade 3, na overhear ko yung teachers ko na sinasabi na, uy, bakit kasi palagi akong nahuhulog sa top 10. So, in-expect ng mga teachers ko na kasama ako palagi sa top 10 kasi hindi ako nasasama sa top 10. Tapos narinig ko sila one time na ah bakit hindi siya kasama sa top 10? Tapos, ini-expect namin matalino naman siya, ganyan-ganyan. Tapos wala siya sa top 10. Eventually, nasasanay ka na, no, na pinag-usapan ka nila na hindi nila naaano na may epekto na pala yun sa'yo. Hindi ko naiintindihan, bakit nga ba hindi ako kasama sa top 10? Bobo ba ako? So, lumaki ako na akala ko, bobo ako. Can you imagine that? Ikaw mismo nagsabi sa sarili mo, bobo ka. 'Di ba? Kasi sa mga naririnig mo sa labas. And then, so it really pulls you down personally dahil ang pagkaintindi mo sa sarili mo, bobo ka. So, yun, timid ka, hindi ka pala kausap sa mga tao kasi nagkakaroon ka na talaga ng disconnect doon sa pagkakilala mo sa sarili mo tapos sa kaya mo naman. Ah, So, yun, hindi ako marunong humingi ng tulong dati. Like, I would keep it to myself. I knew I was having a hard time. Hinahayaan ko na lang. So, ang ending, ah, so yun, yung katulad ng 18-year-old client ko ngayon, I learned how to do it on my own. I have to figure out. So, for example, bobong-bobo ako sa math dati. Nalala ko yung fractions na yan. Tapos, nakailang beses akong pinatake ng test, as in quarterly test ng teacher ko kasi hindi ko siya mapasa-pasa. Yung 75%, hindi ko siya tatlong beses niya akong same test. And then hindi ko siya mapasa talaga. Sabi ko, oh my gosh, pag-aaralan ko yung fractions na yung mga so ang ginawa ko the whole summer nung grade 4, yung papunta na ako ng grade 4, nagdo-drawing-drawing ko yung fraction na yan. So, ginawa ko siyang visual for myself. Natutunan ko siya. Eventually, yun lang pala yun. Kailangan ko lang siya makita visually paano hinahati yung one half, yung one third, paano hatiin, yung mga ganyan. So, naintindihan ko na siya. Pero hindi ko siya talaga pinasa the whole grade 3. So, yun, you tend to be uh, parang dichotomous personality, no? Alam mo na kaya mo pero bobo ka. Alam mo magaling ka pero helpless ka. Ano yung mga ganyan na extreme. So, kapagod siya habang tumatanda ka at nag-grow. So yung young adulthood ko talaga, I really nag-crash talaga ako. I needed psychotherapy. I need counseling. Kailangan kong maggamot talaga ha. Yun yung level ng anxiety ko before and depression. Ah, kailangan kong gumamot at mag-counseling just because of that. So yon.
Siguro opo. Siguro ano na rin po, again, medyo na-answer po, pero the main question na lang po for the last one is, how can they feel supported by the people around them and how can they possibly overcome the social challenges po they
Yeah.
can feel?
So it's really, I don't know, it's really uh, awareness of what it is. Kasi a lot of the problems stem from not really knowing what it is, ano yung itsura niya, ano yung feeling niya, sino ba yung tinatamaan ng ganon. So a lot uh, of the problems stem from that, yung hindi alam nung public kung ano nga ba talaga ang dyslexia, no? So, and even dahil hindi mo alam, hindi rin nila alam kung paano i-treat yung isang batang may dyslexia. So, because you can't treat them like for example, a kid with autism, you can't do it with them kasi iba naman yon. Uh, how to deal or what words to use. Uh, But typically, it's really the acknowledgement. So, yun yung sinasabi ko madalas na diagnosis is your first line of defense. Kailangan alam mo muna kung may dyslexia ka o wala, yung anak mo, bago mo siya matulungan. Kasi kung hindi mo siya alam, hindi mo siya pinadiagnose, malamang sa malamang marami kang gagawin or i-assume na mga bagay na hindi tama o tumpak o like nakakabuti doon sa bata or sa student, no? Uh, and then a lot of these things when you're already like dyslexic, a lot of these things minsan uh yung mga behaviors mo that you have already learned, yung coping behaviors mo that you have learned over the years could be also negativistic or works against you. So, kailangan mo rin ng social skills training sometimes kung paano mo siya i-deal yung isang situation or how to even develop your personality because uh, nakakaano din yon, nakakatulong din yon yung uh, or even maski naman sa lahat so sa regular na bata, 'di ba? Developing your personality in terms of like uh uh parang uh getting a lot more confidence in uh, mga art mo, yung mga sulat, yung mga talents mo, or public speaking, all of these things we can develop naman. More so in a student or a child with a disability. So that's why you have all of these interventions really to improve all of these skills, no? Enhance pa more. So, yung goal naman parate is always to approximate ano yung ideal na na situation. So, ano yung mga traditional na alam ng gusto ng Pilipino, yung ah, nag-excel sa school, magaling kumanta, magaling sumayaw, 'di ba? Yun naman yung gusto lahat ng mga magulang sa mga anak nila na gawin. So it's the same for kids with disabilities, specifically dyslexia. Yun yung goal natin na maging productive na member ng society.
Thank you so much. So yung next part po is more about yung output po namin.
All
Now,
right.
I understand po na you said yung regarding sa digital, ganun po. Pero kami po
Yes.
as a group, yung pinaka naisip po namin is making like a card game po for dyslexics.
Sure.
So, yung questions po namin right now is first po, si Kiara na lang po mag-ask.
So yung first question po, what are your thoughts on card games as a learning tool or material for kids with dyslexia?
So are these card games like katulad ng so iniisip ko yung mga card games na alam ko. Is it like ano ba yon yung kunin ko yung card game ko. Teka lang.
Sige
Okay
po.
po. Go lang.
All right, so I have here like Disturbed Friends. Ito. Have you heard of this card game? You
Hindi pa
should.
po.
So I like card games, no, because they can be really entertaining and it's like really para siyang pang-grupo talaga, and it can enhance a lot of things. So this is like this third games is like para siyang NP na na getting to know you na na card game,
Mm.
pero parang bastos siya. So mas natutuwa yung mga tao kapag nilalaro nila. So if it's an idea like that, why not? If it ang card game ninyo is like designed to be enjoyable. So din na nag-jackpot kayo kasi mahilig ako sa card game. So kung yun yung nyo, yun yung inyong tool, so why not? Yes, I will say yes. Card games are
Curious
fun.
lang po.
Yes.
Curious lang. Paano po yung game mechanics nung pinakita niyong card game?
Etong the third games, I think it's like so it's turn taking. So siya, parang uh how do you so it's like you have to line up the game. I will send you the link to where I
Sure
bought
po.
it. Kasi parang siyang mahirap siya i-describe pero bastusan game ito na meron kayong ifo-form na the sentence based upon the card that you have. And then excuse me. And then I'm not sure how they win, pero it's really just bastusan. It's really nothing about winning or losing. It's just having fun with the statements that you form out of your card.
I
So
just
Sige
want
po.
to ayun.
yes,
Ay, gusto ko lang po i-explain yung parang plan po namin sa card
okay.
game. So yung na-plan out po kasi namin is yung first set po will be about rhyming words. So
Oh,
kunyari may
it's an
po.
educational game.
Yes po. Like
All
for
right.
kids po talaga siya. So kunyari po, yung first card will be like may picture of a cat and then nakasulat po is cat. So they have
Alam
to
mo,
like think of words na
yeah.
apa.
Ang pinakamahirap. So ang rhyming really is one of the indicators of a reading disability, no? So difficulties with rhyming will predict in kindergarten, will predict kung may dyslexia ba yung anak mo in grade 1 and grade 2. It's really one of the worst things that you want to test kasi palaging bagsak. Bagsak talaga yan. So, I suggest do not use rhyming sa iyong cards. You can use a different aspect of it. So, isa sa mga tools na hindi ko masyado nakikita or educational games is really if it's a card game, is really yung gusto ko sana na hindi ko nakikita, i-describe ko na lang. Para siyang card game na matching game katulad ng sinabi mo. Pero yung bis na rhyme is really the initial sound or the final sound. So initial sound like picture lang siya ng fish at ng fan. So alin ditong sound na 'to ang pareha ang initial sound? So, i-uncover nila. Fish and fan, do they start with the same sound? Yes. And then they have 1 point. Yan yung game na hindi ko pa nakikita. So, yan. Pwede niyo yan gawin. Yung another variation naman is yung ending sound. Can and man. Do they have the same sound? So, parang double duty yung card, 'di ba? Kasi pwedeng uh first sound o last sound or even the medial sound. So it should be short vowels only. Kung short vowels, mas madali. A, I, O, and lang. So parang multi-level yung card mo. Kasi pwedeng for initial sound, pwedeng medial sound, pwedeng final sound. Pero ang trick doon is really lista mo lahat yung mga words na pwedeng may variation. So it's really doon sa level ng pag-select mo ng cards uh, para hindi siya mas maraming vowels o hindi mas maraming initial sounds. Di ba yung tama siya for all the 3 levels of difficulty. Ayan, binigyan ko na kayo ng idea.
Thank you po. Thank you.
So kung
Yeah.
educational kasi yun din yung ano ko, reklamo ko madalas is that sa digital work that I do, I end up making a lot of my own materials kasi hindi ko siya nakikita o hindi ko siya mabibili sa market. So madalas din for face to face yun yung problema. Wala man siya. I have to like ano parang i gumawa ng akin o kaya mag-ano, gamitin sa ibang paraan yung mga materials. So that I can use it with my kids. But that's ano, a recommendation.
Um, Next po, if do you believe that they are helpful in teaching kids with dyslexia,
Yes.
yung card games po?
Yes, because pumapasok siya doon sa multisensory teaching part, no? Kasi mas madalas kasi hindi hindi fun yung babasahin mo lang sila, 'di ba? So if it were in game form, so the way that we also approach dyslexia intervention in our in our center is gamified form because we understand that through games you can learn a lot. So uh if you were to do face to face with a card game, that's much better than using a word list. 'Di ba? Mas magaling talaga, mas may impact talaga yung card games, yung mga game features na activities kaysa babasa ka ng word list. Yeah, it's so boring. Yung mga ganyan. So yes, I think it will have an impact, Kiara.
Then for the last one po, what are suggestions or details you
Sinabi ko
think
na.
are needed in the
Yes.
design part naman?
So in the design part, I think it should be colorful but not too chaotic. So, but it should be very eye-catching. So, what I mean to say is that sa chaotic is that wala masyadong maraming elements dun sa design mo. It should be simple enough na nag-aano siya, no? It pops out doon sa example yung fish doon sa middle part it really pops out. uh Isa sa mga design elements usually na hinihingi ko din is that is really simple lines. It's like a simple minimalistic yung yung approach. At the same time it still captures the eye through colors. I think through colors madalas ko to nakikita sa games, sa apps, is that yung level of difficulty nila is really starts with the color first and then the forms last. So, kasi mas madaling i parang i-discern yung colors kaysa sa forms. So, if it were a pleasant game, so dun ka na lang sa color kaysa dun sa intricacy ng design, right? So I think that's why itong mga Pokemon characters, they really turn out well to the kids kasi 'di ba makulay sila tas hindi ganoon ka-complicated yung design nila. Uh Another thing usually that I tell uh designers that I've worked with before sa kanilang mga thesis is that hindi masyado wordy yung product kasi problema na nga yun ng dyslexics na reading tapos gawin mo pang wordy yung yung for example the instructions or the uh yung uh paano mo siya i-market, 'di ba? So as much as possible it should be using simple words. Kung pwede nga mag emoji ka, mas maganda yon. uh And then make it multisensorial. So yung hindi ko nakita sa sa past na na mga natulungan ko ng mga thesis is that they did not make a video explanatory video to how to use the activity na live ha. So I think a lot of uh dyslexics will katulad ko ako ma-YouTube ako because I want to see how it looks like in how to use it. So I think yung card game ninyo should be explainable in a video format. especially how you use it, yung actively na ginagamit so that you can it's like a parang added layer of ease of use for your product. So isa din sa hinahanap ko usually quality nung product itself. So if it were a physical product, so yun yung uh naka-laminate ba siya? Is it made of cardstock? Ano niya? Gaano siya kakapal? Gaano siya ka-durable? Is it made of plastic? Is it bendable? Yung mga ganyan. Uh, and then yun, yung ease of use ng game. So, when I tend to play a game, it should show yung user friendliness niya in terms of yun, yung instructions. So i-address mo siya through a video. Uh, so ano pa, ano yung mechanics ng game? Dapat madali lang siyang sundan. 'Di ba? Tapos may level of, sabi ko kanina, may level of difficulty din minsan na pwede mong sabihin sa estudyante, oh, level B kayo kasi level B ka na. 'Di ba? May easy, may medium hard, may difficult level. May ganun siya na klase in one product itself. Ano pa ba? Ah, yung siguro yung maraming pwedeng mag-participate na yung flexibility niya in the number of participants. Pwedeng dalawa lang, pwedeng mag-isa, pwedeng tatluhan, pwedeng isang group. Because that means to say, mas marami kang ma-reach na users, no? Because it can be used alone, it can be used in a group. So, very friendly to teachers yung yung product mo kasi bibilhin nila, right? Ano pa
Yes
ba?
po.
So, right off the bat, yun lang yung naiisip ko na ideas for your product. Is it the same as what you envisioned it? May mga elements
Um,
na pareho.
yes po.
Oo.
Opo. Lalo na po yung part na colorful and yung medyo
Yes.
minimalistic po. Yun.
Yeah. Kasi yun na
Po.
nga, ang ayaw ko when I work with kids is that kasi usually dyslexia and ADHD occur together 50% of the time. So, ayaw ko yung classroom na ang dami-daming nakasabit. So, gusto ko ng kung gusto mo ng marami, may dating pa rin yung classroom mo o yung materials mo, dalhin mo na lang sa kulay. Pero dun sa mga poster na ang daming visuals na it grabs your attention, hindi siya nakakatulong. So, even with a card siguro, yon yung nafo-focus ka agad doon sa elements na gusto mo lang i-focus. Yes, meron pa?
That's all po. Thank you very much po.
Yun
That's all
po.
questions.
All right. So, good luck
Mm.
to both of you. And
Opo. I
then,
just want to say po na thank you again for participating and for yung idea po kasi medyo may pumasok po sa isip namin. So, thank you po on that part.
yeah, and I have to
Mm.
remind you too, no, that if you come up with a product, this is not, sabi ko nga sa inyo, best practices yung tinatawag na to, no? Kasi nga, yung teacher, yung nagta-troubleshoot, and eventually, these are all also very, yung card game na yan, isa din yan sa mga kailangan ng kindergarten preschool. So it's not just for this specific to dyslexia. It's like specific for all types of learners. You're just making a very special product for everyone. Na nagkataon, it also works well for dyslexia. So if you want to like parang extend your marketing some more eventually with a product, then why not, right?
Yes. Yes po. I have to ask po, kunyari po, in the making of our product po kasi, this will take probably hanggang like next sem, ganun po. Will it be okay po for us to kind of to message you from time to time po, consult you with the designs or yung
Sure.
mechanics po ng game? It will be okay po.
Yeah. Ang problema ko
Okay.
lang is that if you want me to test the product to my own students is that hindi kasi kami face to face, hindi kami physical products, no? Really a
Mm,
digital
okay po.
intervention. So all our products really is digital in nature. So wala tayong avenue to test the physical product. I can send you to ah Andrea, have you na-research mo na yung
Yes
ibang
po.
centers? I can send you to like some of my friends.
If that's okay po, you can send me kasi I have messaged po like a bunch and yung sinabi niyo po kanina word lab,
Oo.
na you used to work po, I actually messaged them po and hindi din po sila nag-reply.
Ah,
So, ayun
I
po.
don't
If
know
that's
what's
okay po,
happening. Yeah. I don't know what's happening to them. Maybe my pandemic, post-pandemic, ano din sila, shyness. But yeah. So, a
oo
lot
ba?
of these reading centers for dyslexics, no, isa lang yung pinagmula namin lahat from, typically from Word Lab. So, all of the teachers, they went to their own places. So I went back home to Davao, may iba sa Cebu, and then set up their own centers. Pero ang karamihan talaga nasa Metro Manila. So, meron dyan actually malapit sa inyo, sa Alabang. So, the Alabang one is really my friend, so I'll just refer you to them. They're called
Okay
Reading
po.
Specialists Incorporated, Reading Inc. So I used to like work for them also before. So yung mga estudyante nila, yung market nila is Alabang area and Laguna area. Paranaque, yung mga
Okay.
ganyan.
Opo.
Ah, and also Cavite area. May mga ibang maliliit. I think there's one in Cavite, but I'm not sure. Hindi ko siya kilala. Pero yeah, very shy sila kasi nga ang mga may-ari nitong ano na 'to, ng mga centers na 'to medyo, may age na din, eh, hindi sila ano kasing TikTok ko, eh, addict ako ng TikTok, yung mga ganyan.
Opo.
So,
Gets po.
hindi sila masyado maka-relate sa ano, mga gusto ng henerasyon ninyo. Eh, sa awa ng Diyos dahil ako, eh, nasa internet at digital, so kabilang na dun ang TikTok. So, that's why I'm on social media a lot because I try then to raise awareness sa social media. So, mas ano ako, mas hip ang lola niyo, yung mga ganyan.
Gets po.
Yung mga friends ko na may-ari ng mga reading centers, hindi. Napansin ko, hesitant talaga sila when it comes to technology use. Kasi yun yung henerasyon na ayaw magpa-technology use, 'di ba? Ito yung mga limited screen time. Diyos ko Lord, eh, addict na yung mga bata ngayon sa screen time, wala ka nang magagawa, 'di ba? Kailangan i-reach mo na sila kung nasaan sila ngayon kaysa pigilan mo pa, eh, nandun na nga sila, wala ka ng magagawa doon, papunta na tayo doon. Papunta na avatar na tayo.
True po.
So yun, I think
Ano
that's
po,
the reason why they don't want.
opo, sige po. If it's okay po, meron din po ba kayong alam na yung teachers na po who are willing to be interviewed? Kasi right now, we need like 3 or 4 more po
Alright, so
for teachers.
ang better option really for you is to work someone in Metro Manila, no, because you're there. It's easier for you. So I'll hook you up. I'm sure kapag na-explain ko naman ng mabuti yung inyong pakay, oo naman sila. So, and sawa na ako kasi palagi na lang ako every year kami na yung pinakamarami natutulungan, 'di ba? Sila yung mga
Opo,
walang thesis college na mga tinutulungan the buong pandemic. So, endorse ko na kayo. Pagod na, sabi ko nga sa'yo, Andrea, 'di ba? As
opo.
in, na ano talaga na naka-4 o 5 grupo kami ng college thesis last year. Working sunod-sunod yun na, ang daming mga questionnaires, ang daming mga produkto na interview from teachers to students to parents, to me, yon. So kung ako lang, okay lang, pero sumuko na talaga yung mga parents, ayaw na nila, pagod na.
Okey lang
Yeah,
po.
so ipo-point
Opo,
ko kayo sa Metro Manila na mga centers.
sige po, thank you. Siguro ano na lang po, kasi po mahirap po talaga mag-reach out. Yung iba po hindi po talaga nagre-reply.
Yes, oo
Sayang po.
nga, sayang. hindi nila nakikita yung benefit kasi of working with young kids like you who are out to, I don't know, to make a new product. These are the products that we will eventually use. Palagi kong sinasabi yon, palagi kong na kinikinita yung ano talaga, contribution ninyo in developing products for kids with special needs in the future. Kasi kayo lang yung nagbigay ng interest, di ba? So malamang sa malamang, kayo yung magkakaroon ng knowledge and know-how eventually as you grow in your profession. So we have to nurture you and help you now, 'di ba? So sige, pagpatuloy niyo yan at tutulungan ko kayo.
Thank you po. Yan, sa parents naman po, kahit we have to ask na lang, yung sa sinabi niyo po, is it the same one? Hindi ko po sure.
Yeah, yung mga parents that so ang nangyayari kasi sa amin dahil nga sa ang layo namin sa sa Metro Manila, and we have a lot of parents that ask about our services in Metro Manila. So hindi sila natutuloy sa amin, pero meron na silang mga ah, nararanasan sa mga anak nila. So I'll refer them to you kung gusto nang
Yun po.
magpa-interview,
Okay
yeah, and
po.
mag-participate. Kasi sila din mismo, naghahanap din sila ng solusyon. And maybe, your product could be a solution for them, right?
Okay po. Sige po. Yes po. Yun
Basta
lang po yung goal.
i-remind nyo lang ako kasi yon. Minsan, dami ng ginagawa ko at ulitin nyo lang ako.
Sige po.
Kasi
Okay
nakakalimut.
lang.
Tapos sabihan nyo, may deadline. Yung mga ganyan. Para,
Opo. Ano po, I think for this one po, yung pinaka-deadline po namin will be like next week po siguro, like March 12. Ganun po.
alright. For
March
the,
11.
for the interviews.
Interviews po, opo. Kasi
Okay.
by March 14 po, kailangan pong final na po
May
yung
output
paper.
na kayo.
Opo, meron na din
Alright.
po yung initial output po.
Sige.
Yun po,
So,
that's it.
I'll probably hook you up with a center tonight through a messenger.
Okay po, sige.
Ah,
Kahit
so you add me na lang on Facebook kasi karamihan sa kanila nasa Facebook ko.
okay po. Is it the same po yung the Reading Owl Edutherapy?
Yes. So yung
Okay.
Messenger, that's the it's
Okay.
just linked to the Facebook
Okay po.
account.
Yung mismo, pwede pala i-add. In-add ko na po
Yes.
kayo.
All
Okay
right.
po.
So,
Ayun. Sige po.
yeah, kasi 'di ba, ah ito yung mga ito yung web website na of choice ng mga 40-year-olds. You have to go where your respondents are. Kasi kayo yung nangangailangan. Wala sila sa Instagram at sa TikTok, nasa Facebook sila.
Opo. Ano po,
Kailangan yung pumunta
actually,
ng Facebook.
opo, we message po yung yung foundation po, Philippine Dyslexia
Yes.
Foundation.
Oo.
Hindi rin po sila masyado active like on Facebook. Pero
So yung
luckily po,
PDF, actually isa lang yan. Word Lab and Philippine Dyslexia
hmm,
Foundation, isa lang yan. So,
na-interview ko po si Teacher Maki
si
po
Teacher
nila.
Maki used to be
Apo.
a workmate of mine.
Yun po. We interviewed her po then last week po.
Okay,
Yun.
yeah.
Tapos kayo po, we found you through one of yung hinat niyo po sa thesis or research po. Kasi
Sino?
Rem po. Rem,
Okay. Rem, I
yun.
don't remember. Sa sobrang
Opo.
dami nila.
Nakita ko po kasi yung parang post niya regarding it. Naghahanap po siya ng interview. So, nag-message po ako na may kilala po ba siya na interview nila before. Like last year po, 2022.
Yeah.
Tapos, siya po yung nag-point sa amin sa inyo. Sabi niya, ano daw po, recommend niya daw po kayo. Ganun. So,
Oh.
yun po. Tinigyan niya po yung Facebook niya sa
Okay. I
amin.
think I
Yun
remember.
po.
Yeah, I remember
Opo.
that person. Yes. Kasi nga,
Ayun.
todong tulong kami last year.
Ayun po. Pero, with the interview po, okey naman na po. Again, thank you so much
So I'll
po.
send you a link of the recording sa YouTube. I'll post it on
Okay po.
YouTube as an unlisted video, and then I'll give you the link and you can access it there.
Okay po. Thank you.
All
Sige po.
right. Good
Kiara, may
night.
question ka pa? Wala
Yes,
naman
None
na
daw po.
po.
Kara. None.
Thank
You know
Ayun
you.
what? It's
po.
probable na meron kayong mga kakilalang dyslexic na tao, hindi nyo lang alam. As
Opo.
in.
Ang dami ko pong kilala din, kunyari pa yung mga friends na, "Uy, may kilala ba kayong dyslexic?" "Ano yun? Ano
Yeah.
dyslexia?" Gumaganon sila. So like,
Oo. Medyo
tapos parang minsan
nakakapraning din siya, oo.
opo,
Na
'pag ine-explain ko
mag-self-divulge, oo.
opo, sasabihin nila, "Hala, baka may gano'n ako." Gumaganon lang sila po. So parang ang funny lang,
Kailangan
gano'n.
nilang magpa-test para ma-sure.
Opo,
Yeah.
yun po. Pero everything's okay naman na po.
Alright. Good night.
Good night po.
Good night
Dinner
po.
po muna pala.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hindi pa po nagdi-dinner. Thank you
Yes,
po again.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye
Okay,
po.
I'll